Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Working in Hockey podcast. Today we've got two faces you've seen do some content together before. My guy, Robert Babiak, also known as Coach Babs, the other Babs online. I guarantee you guys have seen his TikToks, his Instagram clips, but he also was a professional hockey coach. Babs, how you doing today?
I'm not too bad, man. A little sick. Something's going around the office as usual. I'm the last one to get it, but it is what it is.
Well, I appreciate you playing through your flu game here for us. We got a lot of ways we can take this conversation between the coaching, the content career, but let's just give a quick overview of your coaching career to those who haven't followed or known.
Yeah, a lot of people online will try and say I hype this up, but I really don't. Luckily, during university, I just started emailing teams because people said that that's what you're supposed to do. There wasn't a whole lot of guidance on actually working in the sports departments with teams and stuff like that when I was at school. So I just emailed a team in the Fed, and that team was going to have me scout for them for a year. So I hadn't had a job in hockey before then. I just kind of asked uh, some teams, I just, hey, like, what could I do to help? And for anybody that doesn't know, the Fed is the fifth level of pro hockey in North America. So it goes NHL, AHL, ECHL, SPHL, and then the Fed. You also have the LNAH somewhere in there too, but it's the bottom rung. And I worked for that team for 2 weeks. And then because of workman's comp related stuff, they ended up closing the team in Danbury down. I believe that iteration was the Titans. And the guy who had just hired me said, hey, email the coach report here on. He will, and you can talk to him. That was Joe Pace Sr. And I started basically just being kind of like a scout assistant. Just he would call me and ask me like what I thought about players that had been sent by. I helped them organize stuff, payroll sheets, whatever he kind of asked me to help him kind of put together, just managing the roster in the off season.
Mhm.
And then I kind of worked my way in from there, and gradually just got asked to do more and more stuff over the span of that season. And then brief stint in junior hockey doing some stuff, and then went to a camp. Was trying to find a job back in pro hockey, and the guy that owns the Fed and who owned the Watertown Wolves at the time was sitting there. And I said, hey, like, I would like to come work for your team. And he said, okay, let's sit down. I talked to him for 20 minutes. He hired me on the spot as an assistant coach and basically just said, you can do as much as you want with the team here. And I wish I knew more as to what that meant because it was a very fun ride I had there, but lots of stuff. And I mean, if you've seen my videos, you've heard me talk about how wild my season was in the Fed. So I basically got my cup of tea in hockey, and then COVID hit and my cup of tea ended abruptly then.
Yeah, COVID happened to play a role in a lot of people's careers, inevitably. Weird. Who would have
Mhm.
guessed? But no, I think that's awesome, man. You touched on a lot of the key things that I pushed there. Like any success story has a lot of hard work, a little bit
Yeah.
of luck, a little bit of putting yourself out there, all those things. Like you said, you started by reaching out via email, just firing off cold emails. You probably didn't know what you were saying, right? You're just putting it out there and trying to see where it lands. And then you talk about getting your foot in the door the first time around in the Fed there. And just doing anything that it takes, right, to kind of build those relationships, build the trust, show that you're a hard worker, show that you know the game, all those things. So I think that is a perfect kind of culmination of all the advice that we give here on working in
Mhm.
hockey. With your assistant coaching role there, talk to me a little bit about the grind, the hours, the travel in
Yeah.
the Fed. Coaches are they're busy, man.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. And anybody that knows me knows that I'll say this pretty quickly. I got to fail forward. I'm very lucky. People just kept letting me do things. And that's basically what I'd probably make the title of my biography is people let me do things because I just kept asking and I completely failed forward. I didn't know what I was doing all the time. The good thing and the reason why I was able to get as far as I did is I have zero athletic ability, but up top I had the mind for it. So if I had have had any athletic ability, I'm sure I could have had a lot easier time working in hockey because when you don't play and then you come into a situation where you're working with a team and making these decisions, people will doubt the majority of the things that you say because you haven't been there before, which is completely valid. And I have no issue with it. And people talk about like the old boys club aspect of it. But I mean, it just that's how it is. If you haven't done something before, you maybe shouldn't always be telling people how they should be doing the thing. It's like professors in university that are teaching you something they've never done before. So they don't really know what it's like. So that's something I just took in stride because I said, you know what, like, yeah, I'm going to have negative comments. There's going to be a bit of a glass ceiling with stuff. But the coach import here on Joe Pace Sr., he kept asking me to do stuff. And as time went on and people they started to realize I knew what I was talking about with stuff. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere if I didn't. actually being able to put myself in a position where I was an assistant coach for a team. I wasn't doing it by accident whatsoever. I just didn't have the experience. So I was able to get a lot of experience kind of on the spot with doing stuff. Now, I had a university degree, a very fancy, expensive piece of paper that kind of taught me some stuff, but a lot of it's just practical experience. And I think one thing that I got into the Fed is I was willing to basically do whatever was asked of me because I was trying to prove that I belonged there, not necessarily just doing the right stuff and trying to do things the right way. I was basically trying to make sure that I fit between whatever is the coach or the owner, even with the players in some aspect of it too. But anybody that also knows me knows that I'm a little opinionated and I kind of, I can come across a little hot. So it's really just managing that stuff. But uh, Watertown was crazy. Structure, there wasn't a whole lot of that. The staff the team had, again, wasn't like any other experience I've had, usually a bit of a structure and stuff. It was just kind of a lot of people who probably wouldn't got hired anywhere else in terms of the non-hockey related staff. So it was just kind of like a disorganized shit show. The owner of the team kind of told me that that's what I was walking into. And I worked towards basically helping wherever I could with just getting things done. Like I remember a player, Justin Coachman, came to me and I had written out a sheet in the locker room that had flex, what hand they shoot, and what pattern they wanted for the sticks that we were going to order. And he looked at me and said, "This is the most organized it's been here since, and most organized I've seen it here in the last 4 years." So like that was a very basic thing to have happen. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm just trying to explain to people that the illusion that like sports is like crazy fun and stuff. It's not always that case. And a lot of times it's not often, especially at the lower levels, very well organized. So I pretty much had to do whatever was asked of me. And my title was assistant coach with the team, but I was at the rink all the time. I was doing laundry for the team, getting like the kitchen, everything done and making sure the towels were sorted out, helping out with stuff on game day. I did sales. So like I paid back my whole salary just doing sponsorship sales for the team, just going into the community and like going to restaurants and stuff and trying to get them to sponsor the club.
Yeah.
Which a few of them happened. So I offset my salary. So the owner of the team really liked me because of that. But to kind of answer your question, I'm sure you'll have some prompts with me after that whole spiel. You have to do a lot of stuff if you haven't been there before. So I tried to basically put myself in the position where I thought it was going to set up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think the people that get thrown everything and show that they can handle it are the people that end up kind of finding their path, carving their path there, and that leads to success ultimately.
You could say maybe I didn't handle it super well, though. That's one thing I will throw out there is I could have done a much better job looking back at it. So I don't want to act like I took everything and it was all sick. Yeah. There was a lot of issues, but continue.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, I think one thing you touched on there, learning through school and university and your personality and approach to coaching, like, is there a certain personality, a certain type of personality traits that you think the most successful coaches are? You're a well-spoken guy, you're a level-headed guy, even though you said you come off a little hot. Like, how did you realize I could get into coaching? And is there a trend with people who do coach that you notice, oh, that guy's going to be a good coach?
Well, I was a players guy first, and I always tried to do the right thing, and my players will know this. I haven't told this story yet, but I will, so you'll get an exclusive on this one, and this one's pretty fucked up. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, cool. So we had a situation happen where we had a player that was referred to us from one of our long tenured players, brought in one of his buddies from D3, and on Christmas Day they traded him. They tried to trade him anyways. For a player who I didn't want in our locker room because of an incident that I won't get into because I'd rather not get in trouble for that. But we didn't want the kid. I didn't want the kid in my locker room, and I knew that pretty much everybody on the team didn't either. But we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and one of our the hockey ops guys was very adamant about just kind of like doing stuff without the coach or I necessarily always knowing. Him and the owner would kind of cook up some plans. So they traded this player away who I didn't want to trade on Christmas Day. I wasn't happy about it. It was a dumb move, and they called him on Christmas Day too. And I found about that the next day. The head coach didn't tell me, which is one thing I appreciated because he didn't ruin my Christmas. He let me live in bliss for a bit.
Yeah, he ruined your Boxing Day.
Yeah, exactly. Ruin my Boxing Day instead. So, anyways, this trade happens, and I go, "This isn't. I'm not letting this kid in my fucking locker room. Like, this isn't gonna happen." So I texted a buddy and said, "Hey, can you get this guy called up to the SB? This trade can't go through." Which the player did get called up to the SB and went on to play, I think, like 16 or so games up in the SB, and the trade broke partway through the day. No one else knew that I did that, because I didn't want to lose my job, but I wasn't going to let the player who had said some fucked up shit to one of my players into our locker room. And I thought it was a dumb trade. So I had to break it. So yeah, I texted an agent. That agent got the kid called up to the SP, and then the trade ended up having to be voided. And that player who was hanging out in our locker room for 2 or 3 hours then played against us that night instead. And you know, the hockey ops guy is on the phone with me, and he's like bitching and complaining. And I said, well, if you guys had ever let me know that you were going to make this trade, I could have told you that the trade wasn't going to go through, because I would have regardless done what I did. And he said, well, maybe you're not as important as you think you are. And I said, well, that's funny. And just gave it a laugh, told the owner of the team that I didn't appreciate that being said to me, and giggled to myself because I would have had the trade not go through regardless. So they could have just asked me, and I said, this guy's not reporting to the other team, so on and so forth. But that was one of the things that did happen. So I always try to do what was right for the players in my team.
Yeah.
And I got put in an awkward position too, being 25 years old, not being a player, being thrown into a situation where there's just a lot of stuff that has to get done. And I want to win. And I did. We had a winning record, but we could have been a lot better. And
Yeah.
even the owner of our team, Don, said when I came in there, like the room was already lost. We weren't in a great situation. I think a lot of the players on the team would agree with me on that. And eventually, between the head coach and I thought I tried to do my best, but I didn't always agree with the things that would happen or the things that he would do. And the owner of the team, big hockey guy, he had several NHL draft picks that he coached, so he knows what he's talking about. He calls me on the phone. He goes, "Why aren't we doing this?" After he had sat us down, I think twice, the head coach and I, and maybe the player assistant, and asked, like, pressing basically for things to get done. Because if you lose games, people show up, 200 fans don't show up, opposed that like 200 fans last show up to a game, you're in trouble. And he he's asking me, why didn't this happen? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And I basically said, the head coach doesn't want to do it. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I keep telling him stuff. He doesn't want to listen to me. And he goes, you need to put a lighter up to his balls and make him do it. Otherwise, like, we're going to have a problem. So, ended up putting me in a position where I was basically pitted between the guy who pays me and the head coach who I hadn't known before I got there. Both of us were in our first season. So it was a weird dynamic to have, but I think the players knew that for the most part, I basically just tried to do whatever was in their best interest and tried to make sure that we could win. Stupid guys wouldn't end up in our locker room, and that I actually gave a shit. So I think for the most part, most of the guys got that and read that. And I think that's why things basically could function. And the message I get from players still, the players still reach out to me, and even the messages after the season ended when our team got sold and I didn't get the offer I wanted and basically quit at the end of that year, when the new ownership came in, we're positive. So, you just
Life
kind
in
of
the
have to,
Fed.
like, yeah, it's life in the Fed. Things are fucked up. Crazy shit happens. You have to do things. And I think that illustrates the point of when people try and say I make the Fed out to like be better than it is or like act like it's the NHL. Well, I just told those stories. So clearly I don't. I just think the level of play is higher than people sometimes try and paint it as. But, there's drama, there's all that stuff like I just laid out there. It's not like I'm trying to paint it as like the NHL.
No, totally, totally. I think that comes across well. And it's, yeah, there's good people everywhere and there's crazy people everywhere. It's finding a balance. But I think one thing that we touched on off the hop there, you're in a unique situation because you went from coaching at a really young age, as you touched on, to a
Mhm.
content guy. A lot of people struggle, whether it's post-playing careers, post-coaching, post-university careers, whatever it is, with that transition of what's next. And sometimes they stumble into things, good or bad. How did you transition from assistant coach slash do everythinger to a world famous content guy?
World famous content guy. You could maybe drop the world famous, but yeah, I got bored during COVID because I had nothing to do. So I started playing Warzone, and I actually started posting like video game stuff because that on TikTok and shit because I was bored. That was really the cusp of the entire thing. And then I tried to get moved to the SP, And I had a coach who tried to get me hired. The team didn't want to bring me in. I don't think they wanted to pay for an assistant right after the COVID season. So when that didn't really go through for me, I got an offer to go back to the Fed, and it was for like 2.5 times the money they paid me the last season I'd worked. Uh, and I just didn't pull the trigger on it. Talking to my parents and my family and stuff, and I just was like, yeah, you know what? I won't be around ever. My girlfriend hates it because I'm basically like never there. So I just decided not to take it. And I go, oh, well, let's just see. And at that point, like I'd been doing well posting video game content. I got hired by a media company. It's on my TikTok and stuff, and we're trying to work on some of their other sports projects. And because I'd shown just some success with posting video game stuff, they're like, oh, well, could you have a background in sports? So I got hired there. And then over time, I started working in like with some of the stuff that they were doing there, and realized, hey, I'd like to do stuff. So I started on a development deal with them, which we sort of half done, but they kind of didn't really execute well on. But at one point, my boss had made a comment to me, basically, like when I was trying to negotiate how much I wanted to be paid for something. He goes, well, you just post video game stuff. Like you're not a sports guy on the internet. I said, oh, okay. And then posted a TikTok and absolutely just had my first 3 videos did close to 2 or 3 million views total. So just fed stuff went like that.
Yep.
And started crushing. And then from there, basically, because I was just being spiteful because somebody said something stupid to me, I started the Other Babs sports account. That started to go well. Parted ways with that media company last year, and really just started to focus on doing more stuff. Obviously, the relationship you and I have stems from that, and it really just became. I was bored. I needed something to do. I don't hate doing this. Hockey was dope, but it was a grind, and I was gonna have to work up so many different, like from the SP. If I couldn't get hired, imagine maybe 2 or 3 years in the Fed, then I get to go to the Spill, and then maybe 3, 4 years, maybe I get to the Coast. Well, then I'm in my 30s. I'm making shit money. Like, it was just this value proposition of dream job or sort of dream job with a lot more money. And that's kind of like the decision process. I looked at it and I go, I could always go back to coaching hockey when I'm like more stable later or whatever. So yeah, basically by accident. And also people just started letting me do shit. Like I said, like I ended up working at that media company. I interviewed a bunch of UFC fighters, like guys that were ranked. Like Bilal Muhammad, super nice guy. Who else? Giga Chikadze, Stitch Duran, and that's with no experience, no practice. So they booked me an interview with Stitch Duran, the famous cut man. I'd never interviewed anybody in my life. They just said, go do it. I wrote some questions down and they just threw me in. So, and that was that. So
No,
basically no experience, no training. I taught myself everything and had to try and, I don't know, figure it out.
yeah, no, hey, I mean, A, it worked, but B, I think, like you said, the value proposition of you see how long it would take to get to those next levels in coaching. And when you come from organized chaos and some of those messes that you dealt with, I know you joined different media companies and owners box, but a lot of the time you're doing your own thing, right? You're writing your own
Yeah.
story now. You're choosing what you get to do, and you're able to find, hey, I'm passionate in video games. Hey, I'm passionate in talking about the Fed or whatever it is. Like when
Yep.
you get to write your own story, it's a lot more fun, right?
Yeah, and that was kind of one of the big things with it too, is there's in terms of like, and the creator economy kind of was exploding at the
Yeah.
point when I kind of jumped on that train and stuff. And even with the stuff I've done with like Pinzgau, the Austrian team, I've made a lot of content about that I own part of in Austria.
Yep.
Just I've talked about stuff that like I'm interested in. So I'm basically just like yapping about stuff that I would maybe talk to somebody else
Yeah.
about. And trying to, I do a lot of videos like trying to give information to players and stuff because I did get to see a lot of like the negative stuff, and like even working with some of the people I know who are hockey agents and stuff, I was able to see a lot of these things.
Mhm.
And people would ask me questions about stuff even after I finished coaching. People would be like, former players would be like, "Hey, like I got an offer to go play Division 3 Sweden. Like what should I get paid? Do you know, or like do you know anybody?" And that type of stuff. So I started just kind of providing that information out there. And yeah, it's interesting because you don't really, I didn't plan any of this. It just all happened, but
Yeah.
pretty much by accident.
Yeah, and then you're thrust into the limelight once it happens by accident, right? You got to kind of
Yep.
keep it up. You got to keep that name, image, reputation, and building off of what's there. And you touched on kind of helping people there, and you know, obviously, what I'm trying to do with working in hockey here, and what you're
Mhm.
able to do through your pages, you're able to help a lot of people from your experiences, good and bad. You're able to help players, whether they're reaching out saying, "Hey, what do you think of this league?" Or like you said, maybe you can get somebody called up to the SB from the Fed if you don't want them there. It's at the end of the day, when you're doing something you're passionate about and you're able to help people, makes it pretty enjoyable, right?
Yeah, and like I've said to some people before, like you're only as strong as the people that support you. So I try and give back because I'd be pretty much irrelevant without them. I don't even know what I'd be doing instead. I guess I probably would have gone back to the Fed eventually, but yeah, you're only as strong as the people that support you. I've saved junior players thousands of dollars by just making these videos where I say like, here's all the ways you can get fucked over. Like you need to ask your agent if he's trying to place you with a junior team, does he get a cut of the fee that you're about to pay? And then are you paying that agent a fee too? Well, I mean, neither of those things should be happening, but it's stopped some guys or people have said like, hey, XYZ team charged me 10K last year. And I go, yeah, it's worth about six. Tell them you only pay six. That stuff comes up. Players being like, I want to go over to Europe. I've saved
Mhm.
guys a lot of trouble from basically like trying to hire an agent to put them over in Europe when they have no chance. They won't play there. Or if they do, it's going to be like they have to pay money to be there. Like that type of stuff. I just trying to help people out because obviously there's not a ton of resources. And I saw a lot of people kind of getting taken advantage of in some ways. And just trying to give back and make sure that the people who, watch my videos and stuff are able to achieve whatever dream they're trying to get after and potentially save a little bit of money or some heartache from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's well said. And I think, like you said, with agents, like there's a lot of good agents, a lot of good people are agents,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot who are trying to screw you over, make a quick buck, different things. There's a lot of teams overseas that are trying to do that. There's a lot of teams here that are trying to do that and make a buck off people, right? So, like I said,
Yep.
playing off your experiences, being able to help people, give them warnings, and you know, kind of what I try to do with working in hockey, right? It's helping people with the things that aren't exactly out there right now, and I think that's why your content has resonated with so many people. Everybody looks up to the NHL. It's all golden mighty. Everybody wants to be there. That's the stars. The lower levels of pro are a little bit more relatable, a little bit more of a chance
Mm-hmm.
guys can get to it, and a little bit crazier to talk about too. So, no, I think that's awesome. Your content, obviously, we do some stuff together, but your content's awesome. I've been watching it as a fan for pretty well as long as you've been making it now. And anybody who hasn't, get over there and check it out now. What's next for you as a content
Yeah.
creator in life, everything in between?
Yeah, so I got a few things cooking. So right now, I'm working on a relationship with a football team over in England. Obviously, I can't talk about hockey all the time, and one thing I do enjoy a lot is soccer. But I'm working on a relationship with a team over in England, so I'm hopefully being able to announce that in the next short bit here. And I have some hockey stuff that's cooking as well. So I'm hoping in the next few months here. And one thing anybody in content can relate to is like you're trying to get deals done and stuff, and you'll have so many people say like they're gonna do stuff with you or brands reach out and you have to like work through this process where basically like 99% of the things that come your way probably aren't gonna work
Okay.
out or it's not gonna work out the way that anticipate it to. So yeah, right now I've got a bunch of stuff potentially happening, but very realistically, this time September, nothing could have changed, and I might just be still posting the same videos on TikTok and stuff like that. It's making content, everyone looks at it and they're like, oh, this should be fun or easy. Or, you just pull out your phone and like talk to a camera and they think it's like that smooth and you can just make money. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the back end of being a content creator. I'm lucky that I get to be a content creator full time, but I know lots of people who look at it and they think, oh, he must be making so much money. And then it's like, no, it's really not. And if you want to make the money, you really have to go after it and grind and try and get these things done because people won't just give you money for whatever reasons.
Absolutely. We always joke that trying to get content deals done is like, you know, when you talk to your buddy from high school, you bump into him at the grocery store or something, you say, oh, we'll get out for a round of golf soon, or like, oh, we'll catch a game soon. You're never going to do that. You're both going to say that you're going to do it. You're both going to
Yeah.
say, oh, we'll make this content deal work. But like you said, it's probably not happening. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, both in minor pro hockey and in content. Babs, let's wrap it up here with some advice. What is the best career advice from your kind of falling forwards trajectory so far?
Yeah, try to be nothing like me. I am the exception to the rule. I got very, very lucky. I had some skills, but I shouldn't have really probably had a career in hockey, and becoming a content creator, that probably shouldn't have worked out either. I worked really hard at it though. And I didn't let other people try and take advantage or steer me in one direction. I knew what I wanted to do, what I was worth, and I pivoted sometimes, but people are going to send you death threats. People are going to be really mean to you. You're going to have haters. You're going to have trolls, all that stuff. Most of it doesn't matter like all, and most things in life that you're going to deal with, especially as a content creator, none of it really matters. So like even as a coach, I had players scream at me one time during a game. We had to almost basically be separated at the bench. I started one way, he started to go the other. That doesn't really matter. It doesn't. The next day, so nothing happened. It's not a big deal. You don't have to keep thinking about it. It all has to roll off. And that's the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody. If you saw my DMs outside of a monumental amount of players I have asking me for stuff, there's also the people basically being like, hey, fuck you, idiot. Or like, the Fed's a joke. You're a joke. You don't know anything. Stop posting videos. A bunch of other words I can't say on here. So yeah, learn to let it all roll off, but try and be nothing like me. I'm not a great example. I'm the guy that you would look at and be like, oh, this stuff is cool, but like go through a different path than I did. I do not recommend it doing anything that I did.
No, well, it worked out. It worked out. That's what we'll say. How about as far as content creator? Somebody who, like you said, the creator boom has been going for a couple of years, but somebody who's really passionate about something, whether it's video games, whether it's sports betting, whatever it is, how would you suggest that they get into, content, posting their stuff, etc.?
Well, you have to do it. So you have to post content. So that's a really good thing, is just like you have to do it, but you have to post people care about. You have to try and give people a purpose, which I think if you look at some of my content, I sort of do that in some ways. Um, and yeah, it's just you have to provide value. And if you're trying to make an NHL account that talks about NHL content, you're going to be competing with a lot of people. It is quite hard, but if you attack a niche, it's a lot easier to do. That's what I did. That's why I've been able to have success. But you have to pivot at the same time too, because if I talked about how much you get paid in the Fed every single video, eventually people are going to get bored of it. If I tell my stories all the time, eventually I will run out. So you have to adapt, pivot, but don't try and fight with the big dogs right away. But you have to actually post stuff and learn how to edit your own videos too. That's very
Yes.
helpful. Try not to pay people money right off the rip, because I've seen a lot of people who try and do this. Not everybody can do this. It's the same as being a hockey player. Some people don't have the skills and the ability to be able to do it. And they work really, really hard at it. You have to treat it basically, and that's the way I try and look at it, is I'm very competitive. You have to treat it kind of like it's a sport. Eventually
Yeah.
you have to know when to hang it up, or when you need to be pushing harder. And if you think, oh, maybe I can have a career, but you have to look at it the same way, because you can sink a lot of time in, and just make sure you're doing it smartly. And yeah, you have to be a little negative toward yourself. It just can't be all positive, or like I'm gonna grind this out and work really hard, because you can work really hard in the complete wrong direction. I've done it, trust me. So
Amen. Amen. We have all been there. But Babs, this has been awesome, man. Truly appreciate the time. I think you got a super interesting journey, and you're just getting started. Lots to come on your socials as well. Tell the people where they can find you.
it's at the other Babs on pretty much anything you can try and look for.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, guys, check them out. Be sure to check out this week's newsletter of Working in Hockey, and we'll see you next week.